For a long time, I thought dogs needed the same things most owners focus on constantly. Good obedience, enough exercise, proper discipline, structured routines, and clear boundaries seemed like the foundation of everything. And to be fair, those things absolutely matter. But over time, I started noticing something that completely changed the way I understood dogs altogether. Some of the most well-trained dogs I met still seemed emotionally unsettled. Meanwhile, some dogs with imperfect obedience looked deeply relaxed, connected, and emotionally secure around their owners. That contradiction bothered me for a long time because it did not fit what I believed about dog behavior. If training and structure were the most important things, why did some dogs still seem anxious, disconnected, or emotionally overwhelmed despite having them? Then I started paying closer attention to the relationship itself instead of just the behavior. And honestly, that is when everything about dogs started making much more sense to me. I realized I had been focusing heavily on what owners wanted from dogs while paying far less attention to what dogs emotionally needed from humans in return. That perspective shift completely changed the way I looked at dog behavior. Most owners believe dogs primarily need exercise, commands, food, toys, and stimulation. While those things matter enormously, many dogs also need something deeper that often gets overlooked completely. They need emotional stability, clarity, safety, predictability, and connection. Dogs are constantly reading emotional energy, routines, environmental pressure, and the behavior of the humans around them. One thing I completely underestimated was how emotionally sensitive many dogs really are. Dogs notice tension, frustration, unpredictability, stress, conflict, and emotional inconsistency much faster than most people realize. Many owners focus heavily on controlling behavior while unintentionally creating emotional instability around the dog itself. The dog may obey commands while still feeling emotionally unsettled underneath. That realization changed everything for me personally. I stopped viewing dogs as animals that simply needed correction and control and started understanding how deeply environment and emotional safety influence behavior overall. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming dogs experience life the same way humans do. Humans often prioritize outcomes while dogs experience emotional atmosphere constantly. Dogs pay attention to routines, emotional patterns, predictability, body language, tone shifts, environmental tension, and social energy far more than many owners realize. Their world is heavily built around emotional awareness. This is one reason some dogs become anxious in chaotic households even when owners provide plenty of exercise and training. Physical needs may be met while emotional stability remains inconsistent. Many dogs thrive most when life feels emotionally predictable. Calm routines, consistent communication, emotional clarity, and reliable leadership often help dogs relax far more than constant stimulation alone. One thing I misunderstood early on was the idea that tiring dogs out solved everything. Exercise absolutely matters, especially for active breeds, but exhausted dogs are not automatically emotionally balanced dogs. Some dogs receive endless physical stimulation while remaining mentally overwhelmed and emotionally unsettled. Owners sometimes mistake physical exhaustion for emotional fulfillment. This is why some dogs seem unable to fully relax even after exercise. Their bodies may feel tired while their nervous systems still feel emotionally overloaded. Another thing I learned is that dogs need emotional decompression far more than many owners realize. Constant stimulation, chaos, social pressure, unpredictable schedules, and environmental stress slowly accumulate emotionally inside many dogs. Some dogs cope with this pressure quietly at first. Others begin showing signs through barking, reactivity, pacing, clinginess, destructive behavior, shutdown behavior, or emotional hypervigilance. What surprised me most was how often behavior problems improved once emotional pressure inside the dog's life decreased. Sometimes dogs did not need more intensity but actually needed more calmness and predictability instead. This was especially noticeable in anxious or reactive dogs. Owners often focused heavily on obedience while unintentionally overlooking how emotionally overwhelmed the dog already felt daily. One thing dogs seem to crave deeply is emotional clarity from humans. Dogs generally relax more when they understand what to expect consistently from their environment and the people around them. Inconsistent emotional energy creates uncertainty for many dogs. Calm one moment and frustrated the next can make some dogs feel constantly alert, trying to predict what happens next. This is why emotional regulation from owners matters enormously. Dogs are incredibly sensitive to emotional tone, body language, tension, and social energy. Many owners unintentionally transfer stress directly into interactions with their dogs. Frustration during walks, nervousness around triggers, unpredictable reactions, or emotional inconsistency often affects dogs more than people realize. That does not mean owners need to become emotionless robots around dogs. It simply means emotional stability creates safety and clarity for many dogs internally. Another thing I realized is that dogs often need guidance more than constant control. There is a major difference between leadership that creates safety and pressure that creates emotional tension. Dogs generally respond best when boundaries feel calm, predictable, and fair. Constant emotional conflict often damages communication much more than owners expect. One major mindset shift for me was understanding that dogs are not simply trying to obey humans constantly. Many are trying to feel safe enough emotionally to process the world calmly first. This becomes especially obvious in overstimulating environments. Crowded parks, chaotic homes, noisy streets, unpredictable interactions, and emotionally tense situations can overload some dogs very quickly. Many dogs that appear badly behaved are actually emotionally overwhelmed. The behavior itself often becomes communication about the dog's internal emotional state. One thing many owners underestimate is how exhausting modern human lifestyles can feel to dogs. Constant movement, noise, social exposure, stimulation, and unpredictability create pressure many dogs struggle to regulate calmly. Some dogs adapt easily while others slowly become emotionally overloaded. This is why two dogs in similar environments may behave completely differently emotionally. Breed tendencies also influence emotional needs heavily. Some breeds naturally crave more closeness and human connection while others require more independence, decompression, or environmental stability. Highly sensitive dogs often react strongly to emotional tension inside homes. These dogs may appear clingy, anxious, reactive, hyper-alert, or emotionally dependent when they feel instability around them consistently. Other dogs internalize stress much more quietly. Owners may not realize the dog feels emotionally overwhelmed until behavior issues suddenly appear later. One thing I eventually realized is that many dogs need calmness more than endless stimulation. Modern dog culture often pushes constant activity, endless excitement, and non-stop engagement as the ideal lifestyle. But many dogs actually thrive when life feels emotionally slower, calmer, and more predictable overall. Nervous systems need recovery and decompression just like bodies do. This does not mean dogs should live boring, unstimulating lives. It simply means balance matters enormously between engagement and emotional recovery. Another huge lesson for me was understanding how much dogs value connection itself. Dogs are incredibly social, emotional animals, deeply affected by the quality of interaction they experience daily. Some owners focus heavily on commands while unintentionally neglecting emotional connection entirely. Dogs may obey while still feeling emotionally disconnected from the relationship itself. Connection often shows up through simple moments owners barely notice. Calm presence, consistent routines, patient communication, emotional predictability, and relaxed interaction often matter more than people realize. One thing many dogs seem to need most is knowing their environment feels emotionally safe and understandable. Dogs generally relax deeply when life stops feeling chaotic and unpredictable constantly. This is why trust matters so much. Dogs that trust their owners emotionally often navigate stressful situations far more calmly overall. Trust is not built only through obedience training. It is built through consistency, communication, predictability, patience, fairness, and emotional reliability over time. One thing I noticed repeatedly is that emotionally secure dogs often recover from stress much faster. They still experience excitement, fear, frustration, and overstimulation, but they regain balance more easily afterward. Dogs living in constant emotional uncertainty often struggle to regulate themselves calmly. Their nervous systems remain hyper-alert because they never fully relax internally. This is one reason emotional stability matters so much for behavior overall. Calm nervous systems generally learn and adapt more effectively than overloaded nervous systems. Another thing that changed my perspective was realizing how many behavior problems improve once dogs finally feel understood properly. Sometimes dogs do not need harsher correction but more emotional support and environmental clarity instead. That does not mean structure disappears. Boundaries, training, consistency, and communication still matter enormously. But structure works best when paired with emotional safety instead of emotional conflict. Dogs generally become calmer and more cooperative when they feel mentally secure first. One major breakthrough for many owners happens when they stop viewing dogs purely through obedience alone. Instead of constantly asking, "How do I stop this behavior?" they begin asking, "What is my dog emotionally struggling with right now?" That single question changes everything. Suddenly behavior becomes information instead of simply disobedience. Dogs are constantly communicating emotional states through behavior. Barking, reactivity, shutdown behavior, pacing, clinginess, hypervigilance, and overstimulation often reflect emotional imbalance underneath. The more I understood this, the more I realized I had been wrong about what dogs truly need most. Exercise, obedience, stimulation, and structure matter enormously, but emotional safety and stability may matter even more than many people realize. Today, when I see calm, balanced dogs, I pay attention to something very different than I used to. I no longer only look at obedience but also at emotional stability, connection, trust, and the overall energy surrounding the relationship itself. That perspective completely changed how I understand dogs altogether. And honestly, I think many dogs are trying to tell us the same thing constantly through their behavior.